Welcome to Let Go, Let EFT, where we are learning and leaning in with you, with your hosts Michelle Puster and Dr. Laura Spiller. EFT is a beautiful model helping people connect with themselves and the people that matter the most, developed by Dr. Sue Johnson.
Hi, Michelle. It's so good to be back.
Good morning, Dr. Spiller. Yes, it's good to be back after our summer hiatus.
Yes.
So I hear that you did a really awesome training, and today you're going to share with us a little bit about this training that you did. So can you tell us a little about it?
Yes, I went to a 2.5-day training in beautiful Montana. And if you guys don't know, that Michelle and I are in Houston, so it was really lovely to get to some cooler climates with beautiful views of mountains, where an EFT supervisor, Lori Marchek, who is in Bozeman, presented a training on how she integrates her experience with internal family systems with her, deep knowledge and love for emotionally focused therapy. So it was an EFT and IFS, training, and there was an IFS trainer also, Jenny Feibig, and she is based in Durango. She came and did some intro, and they actually did this wonderful demonstration where they worked with one participant and they went back and forth between doing EFT and doing IFS, and kind of, a couple minutes with one and another. And that was huge. That was really cool to see. And it was great. And Brittany Birch, who's in our Houston community, went also. And on Saturday, she and I, just this past, few days ago, we did a 2-hour discussion presentation for our community on the training, on our experience, and what we got out of it. So I'll talk a little bit more about that too as we continue.
And we'll put a link to that down below so that you guys can check that out. And for members of ICEEFT, it's free. And for non-members, it'll be $20. And that'll be, if you find what you hear here interesting, that would be a great next step for the.
Yeah.
So maybe could you let us know, Dr. Spiller, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 of the, or maybe even just one, since this is a clip of time, but what are some of the takeaways that really stood out to you that you feel like, just stood out to you, or significant or helpful?
Yeah, let me talk a little bit, even like what I was, I helped organize this training because I had been in supervision with Lori Marchek, and just really seeing how she works in EFT with clients, and just really kind of wanting to be able to absorb and learn from her and her style. And so that's why another supervisor in EFT supervisor in training, we were kind of like, hey, we'd love to learn more about how you do EFT. And so we kind of ended up over the last 1.5 years kind of working on, hey, let's bring this to a group of people. And what I would see in her work is, really slow getting in very thoughtfully in the attachment channel. And so she really works, in that, how is it to have me, the therapist, hearing you, being here, being close to you, attachment channel, but with such non-pathologizing, validating, and willingness to really be with and get to know the protective parts. And so I think that's, it was seeing that made me want to learn more. And that's one of the big takeaways. And I think EFT, this is another big takeaway, can really add to IFS. With the attachment theory and the work in the attachment channel, and really bringing that piece to IFS. As I get to know your inner world, how is it to have me close? How is it to have me seeing these parts?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to help you with the comfort. So if it's more comfortable for you for me to back away, I'm going to back away a little bit. And that we're really making that piece explicit. So if there are people watching this who are really familiar with IFS, I want to just add that, EFT can add to that too. In IFS, you really are making this journey into the inner world of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such rich material for helping people be more aware of what happens to them when someone comes close.
Mm-hmm.
When someone sees parts of them that nobody sees for the first time. So I just love the merger. It's not, absolutely, I think IFS can add to EFT, but I think EFT can add to IFS, and what comes out of it is, something pretty cool. So for the EFT therapist, what I thought was a really useful takeaway is helping us befriend the protector parts.
I really love that. So could you give an example maybe of what befriending the protector parts might look like or sound like?
Yes. So if we just want to do a translational crosswalk, in EFT, we can, we encounter people's moves or protective moves or positions in the cycle, or, the blocks we get to when, to vulnerability, or exits from vulnerability, secondary emotion. I think all of that would be similar to what is called protector parts in IFS. So we are doing this. We are working with these protective parts. But in EFT, right, we also, our therapist hearts, really long to help people with their vulnerability and to get to their vulnerability. And sometimes we can try too fast. I know we have talked a lot about that in our conversation.
Right. Yes.
Move too fast.
Okay. That's your protective part. Let's get to the good stuff.
Yes. So, yeah. So what's under the anger,
Right. All right. You get angry.
Yeah. So in IFS, we're going to say, oh, well, there's an angry part that just came up, can you focus on that? That anger that you're feeling right now? Can you find it? Can you find it and focus on it, and maybe listen to it a little bit more? What it has to tell us, right? Can you find that part? If you're really focusing in, noticing what it's wanting you to see or hear, maybe images, it may be memories, it may be words, it may be physical sensations. But let's tune in there and see what more your anger has to tell us. So in both models, there is a lot of validation for the anger, right? Of course you get angry. Of course there's this angry part. It makes so much sense. And very similar questions, beyond, in EFT and IFS, if help me understand kind of what the anger wants for you. What's its hope? If it's keeping you safe, what's it keeping you safe from?
And what might, sorry, I was going to ask what might happen next in that session. Like you're hanging out with the angry part, you're asking these beautiful questions, you're acknowledging it, validating it, staying close and hanging out with the angry part, right? Like you said, not skipping over it, not say, okay, now let's get to the vulnerable part. What happens next when you hang out?
A little bit more time again, with how is it for the anger to have me seeing, this would probably be the EFT IFS kind of merger, but what happens as I see this angry part? Can your angry part see me looking at and seeing it?
Ooh, I like that question.
Yeah. What do you
see
in my face as I'm really connecting with this angry part?
So there's a little bit more emphasis on using yourself as the attachment.
Yeah, that's the merger, right? That's the EFT IFS merger, because I don't think that is, a part. And I should, a disclaimer. I have, I've read an IFS book, I've gone to this training, and that's the extent of my internal family systems training. We left some comments about, if we're, anything you want to
We
add.
could be getting it wrong.
Yeah. So, but I think that's more of the EFT merger where there is, we're in interaction with the part, and we're really being very much explicit about the fact that, here I am seeing that. Now I know IFS will ask, right, will the part let me see it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Well, and that feels a little, I mean, it's not new. Like, I feel like that I've definitely seen trainers do that in EFT. How is it for me to come close? But it seems like you're just like expanding on that part, like the protective part, and using ourselves as, what is it like for me to come close? What is it like for the anger to see me? How is it? It seems like it's just sort of like taking something and expanding on it. And is that kind of what it felt like?
That's what it feels like to me. I mean, it gives us some tools to really hang out there.
Hang out with the protective part.
Yeah. And as you get to know the anger, right, we wonder, can the anger talk more about, what it's protecting? What might happen if we were to ask the anger to just step aside a little bit? And I think what I heard the IFS trainers, talk about is a little bit less, it's very reassuring. I mean, again, in IFS, there really is a sense of these are personalities, that have, fears and emotions and
of their own.
Of their own. But being able to say, but really say, you, anger, don't need to go far. I am not asking you to go away. I am asking you to kind of stand to the side, and you can let me know if you can't do that. That's fine too, but really kind of being exactly with what's coming up, whether it is the anger won't go to the side, and then you explore that.
You don't want to go to the side. Tell me more about that. What makes it hard to go to the side?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And if you can, let me know if you start to feel like you can't anymore. What would happen if you step aside a little bit?
And a lot of times, sorry.
Go ahead.
A lot of times we talk about self of the therapist. Did they talk about that at all in the training? Like, what would make this challenging for us? How would our self of the therapist come into the space, and kind of like, where might our alarm bells go off?
Well, one of the most useful parts of the training was we actually did mapping of therapist parts.
Fun.
And we did some exploration of the different parts that come up for us with our challenging clients.
Oh, I love that.
It's really, really useful for us. And I've had supervision with, a couple of supervisors who have IFS training. So, I've found that so useful, that my younger part, whose safety was to get it right, to not mess up. And sessions can get really scared. And, one of the useful things I learned from my supervision early was to bring that part sort of next to me and tell her it's okay. We have nothing to prove, right? We're doing our best, that she can sit right beside me. I'm not telling her to go away, right? We're going to take a few deep breaths, and we're going to connect with our clients, because that's what's important to us. And I'm not young anymore, and I don't have to worry about being rejected. That, I am okay.
I love that. It's so explicit, right? Like, I've heard EFT trainers say that, make the implicit explicit, right? And it's like, our stuff is going to get triggered, and to have this explicit image of your little self in the room, and you're not like, like we kind of maybe sometimes want to do a lobotomy and get rid of the parts of ourselves that we don't like, or that hinder us in some way. And I love that we don't have to do that at all. We don't have to push them away. We don't have to silence them. We can bring them in, get curious about them, and reassure them. I love that image of a younger part, and reassuring that younger part, and then focusing on the work that you want to do, and the work that's right in front of you.
Yeah. And I thought that was one of the beauty of IFS. It's really about giving those parts respect, honor, love. They've been in these rigid roles for a long time, because I thought that was the only way to keep us safe. And, and we, and so like in IFS, what the goal is to be able to help the clients access their kind of, they call it self energy, You know, but in the self, in that inner self energy place is probably more centered and is kind of, you know, able to experience secure attachment. But there's a self that's older, wiser, compassionate, curious, caring that is in all of us. So the goal is to help clients access that part and let that part be in the lead, taking care of all the other parts.
Oh, that's really beautiful. I love that. Like in my mind, when you said that, it's like this grandmotherly kind of like comforting, it's going to be okay, knowledge of a lifetime. And, you know, yeah. And I love the idea that that is within all of us and that we all have that and can access that as a tool. And I love what you said, respect, honor, and love these different parts of ourselves, some of the parts of ourselves and our clients that are the most difficult, the most painful, the most, yeah, but I can totally see how coming towards, like you said, an angry part that's protecting with respect, honor, and love is going to get so much farther than that's not okay. We need to shut that down. That's not working for you, you know,
Right.
which is probably what they're trying to do anyhow, right? Like
Right. They've tried that. They've really tried that. You know, and that's part of what I've, as you know, usually we get protector parts that are in polarization. So you may have, you know, the angry part, but then you have the, the manager part who wants to be, you know, really good and who is sort of trying to, you know, the controller part, right? That's trying to kind of squash, control, and that's not self energy either. You know, that's just another part. And so that's was helpful for them, this model, too, is that, you know, a lot of times if we're not interacting with a part that has self-compassion, then it's probably, that's another part, not self energy.
And self energy is the compassionate part of ourselves, the older, wiser part. Is that self energy? Okay.
Yeah.
You've done more than me. It sounds like I need to read an IFS book and do a training because it sounds so compelling. I'm
awesome.
drawn in.
Yeah. And if, again, if folks are interested in more information, we've got that. It's a 2-hour workshop that Brittany and I did on our website. We'll put the link. But in that, we so grateful for Lori and Jenny who let us use a clip of their work that they did at that larger training. There's a real play with another therapist who grateful, was so beautifully open to allow this recording and this really heartfelt work, but they go back and forth, each doing a few minutes of their model. So Lori does a little bit of EFT and Jenny does IFS, and they go back and forth in working with her. And that's, people really, really got a lot out of that and loved it. So if you're interested,
that's wonderful. And is there any takeaway that you would have, Dr. Spiller? Like if someone wanted to try to use one little teeny part of this in their next session, what is a takeaway maybe that you would?
Yeah, I would really this is an EFT and IFS, really slow down with the blocks and try to let that block know that and try to get to a point where you can authentically really express to that part that you understand what it's trying to do. That makes so much sense that part would try to do that you want to know more about how they got into this role and the part's fear if they were to not be there protecting, what would happen. Really slow down there and make sure you're trying to understand that. And,
I love that.
And don't, really feel like don't move on until you really, really feel like you've come to a place where the part is understood and honored and you get it. And you can feel some sort of kindness and love for that part.
Ooh, I love that because it kind of gives you a really good sense of, do I really fully, as the therapist, know this part? Do I really respect, honor, and love this part? And if I'm struggling to, probably the client is, probably the partner is. So
For
maybe
sure.
I need to hang out here a little bit longer. And if I'm really struggling, maybe there's something coming up for me. Maybe I need to get consultation. And yeah, I love that. I could use that in in a therapy session today, hanging out with the protective part longer, slowing down, knowing it, respecting, honoring, and loving it. I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Spiller, for sharing about this training that you did. It just sounds really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I'd love to kind of share the tips and the learning. So thank you. And we'll put some of those additional details in the show notes. And again, if you've got more IFS or have questions or interest, put it in the comments and we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, share with us some of your favorite IFS tools.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thanks.